Hello and welcome to the 2019 Toyo Tires Porsche Championship. We're at what is a very sunny Brands Hatch for the seasoning opener. Now, the 2018 Championship winners are not rejoining us this year, which means one to watch, Hugh Pert in the 924s, and Rick Styron in the boxes are definitely going to be one to watch. So we're going to hand it straight over for all the action to Richard John Neal.
Thanks very much, and indeed, Rick Styron on pole position, Gary Lawrence is alongside. Row 2, Nick Hull with Anthony Hutchins, then Andrew Porter and Lee Bowden. Andy Baker completing the Class A runners. The 924s headed by Hugh Pert from Andy Pritchard. Then it's Chris Valentine and John Jones completing our grid. The lights are already on. Gary Lawrence from the outside of the front row gets away well. Not so good, I don't think, for Nick Hull. Hugh Pert in the blue, 924 gets away well. Andy Pritchard in second in white and green, on board with Nick Hull. By my reckoning, that's sixth place because Lee Bowden, the production class champion, is on the outside line, currently in fifth. Andy Baker is behind Nick Hull. The 924's giving chase. Uphill into Druids for the first time. Bowden goes wide in black. Nick Hull is going to try and squeeze. He's got the outside line, he's giving room, but he's got a little bit more pace down into Graham Hill Bend. And that is fifth position for the 44 car. Lee Bowden next up from Andy Baker. Bowden and Baker, the last couple of years production class champions. We haven't got any production runners today. There in the 28 car is Andy Baker, the man from Sheppey, so this is very much his home race. We've got another outing here on the Indy circuit at Brands Hatch later in the season. So Baker sixth in the championship last year, and a good move for him, moving up, and indeed for Lee Bowden, starting off in the production category, gaining experience, then moving up into the race class, which is headed by Rick Styron, the man who holds, I think, most records for wins, certainly championship titles, triple champion. Gary Lawrence is second at the moment in the number 3 car, and here's the view from Nick Hull. He's got a grandstand seat for this battle for third place, and at the moment that's held by the red, white and blue car of Anthony Hutchins, the former Mazda MX-5 racer. So Anthony has no doubt been watching the Porsche Racing Drivers Association competition over the last couple of years, because very often sharing the bill with the Mazda Championship, and has made the switch this year. Very welcome newcomer, and running well at the moment, third position on his debut, with Andrew Porter in behind. On board with Andrew, the man from Knaresborough, third season with us here, 10 races last season. And that's Nick Hull in blue in fifth place, just chasing those guys. The leading two, Rick Styron and Gary Lawrence, looking to try and get away. Gary Lawrence will be hoping not to lose track of Rick Styron, as looking on the inside line there goes Andrew Porter, still followed by Nick Hull, who's getting closer. Nick won't be happy with his start, goes to the outside line here, using all the track, trying to close in at the moment on Porter in fourth place. Porter, for his part, we want to settle in and have a little nibble away at Anthony Hutchins. Hutchins qualified fourth, but finds himself up in third at the moment. This augurs well for Hutchins, having joined the championship, as we said. At the moment, though, Porter is the man under pressure. Brands Hatch was such a great venue. It's been with us in this championship since the championship started, with the 924s, of course, running on their own back in '92. First outing here was on the Grand Prix circuit, and that was won by Mick Phillips back in the day, and we were here later on in the season when Dallas Jackson won from the eventual champion Remy Bob. That was in the 924s, and Nick Hull here, fifth position. The Boxsters joining the championship in 2010 to give you the full perspective as they go along Cooper Straight. Nick Hull's getting a run here. He's going to look on the inside line as they come down into Surtees. Has he got enough? No, he hasn't. On the brakes. Doesn't want to do a lunge on Andy Porter in the first race of the season. Nick wouldn't do a lunge anyway. He was frustrated last year with a few problems, to say the least. And it's going to be important for all these guys to get the cars home in one piece. But Hull coming along the straight, you can get a really good sense of the undulations of Brands Hatch from the onboard. Great line into paddock, and now goes up Halewoods Hill in towards Druids. The blue nose looking to try and go on the inside line, switches to the outside. He's putting Porter under an awful lot of pressure here, is Nick Hull, and this is really helping Anthony Hutchins, the man from Rye, another home-based driver. This weekend, incidentally, just 2 races. We've got 3 races at 5 of the events, 5 of the 8 over the season, and we've got another double header at Brands Hatch at the end of July. You'd be most welcome to come and join us and talk to the drivers in the paddock and watch some great racing. But as I say, 5 of the 8 events are triple headers. We wind up at Donington Park in October, and again I'll tell you more about the schedule when the racing allows us to. On board with Gary Lawrence in second place. Rick Styrin is out front. This is Lawrence, by my calculation, this is Gary's 99th start with the Porsche Racing Drivers Association Championship, so a landmark coming up in the next race for him. Meanwhile, Nick Hull is putting all sorts of pressure still on Andrew Porter out of Druids. He's going to look for the inside at Graham Hill Bend. He's thinking about it, too far back, goes back to the racing line as they go through Graham Hill Bend. Very mindful of track limits, of course. That Graham Hill Bend, the exit of Graham Hill Bend, one of the places that you will see lots of penalties being issued for track limits, but nobody going under that today. Nick Hull looking on the inside line again as they come out of Clearways and onto Clark Curve, challenging hard, but it's still the 33 of Andrew Porter holding on to 4th position. We're on board with the 5th place car. This is the scrap for third position in the 924s. Andy Pritchard up ahead of John Jones, the newcomer, and that red car, if you recognise it, it's the ex-Ryan Lowry car, 3rd in the championship in 2017. Pritchard, man from Tamworth, 7th in the championship last year. And Rick Styrin, the race leader, about to come through. John Jones sees him, keeps over, as does Andy Pritchard. So Styrin is through. The white and green Boxster, as opposed to the 94 we're looking at, is Gary Lawrence in second position. So Styrin building a little bit of a lead over Gary Lawrence, who's got to deal with these 2 94s, who are having a great battle. Lawrence on the outside line, a nice sweep around the outside, goes past Andy Pritchard as well. So the top 2 outright in the race successfully lapped the 3rd place battle in the 924s. Styrin goes through past Chris Valentine. Chris very respectfully leaving the door open up to Druids, the hairpin, as we go back to this 3rd place 924 battle. And remember, the 924s now very much a classic, but started off the championship, as we said, back in 92. Remy Bopp, the initial champion, and we've had some super drivers in the 924s and Boxsters over the years, and still a great place to come and cut your racing teeth. On board with Porter again. Hutchins coming up on the 2 924s. It's going to be inside or outside. With the twists and turns of this track, it is difficult, and we'll see whether he's going to go for the inside line here as they come through Clark Curve. Porter's going to follow through as well, past John Jones in 639, then to the outside line of Andrew Pritchard, so goes through, and Nick Hull not that far behind, but maybe lost a little bit of ground over the last couple of tours, but not enough, maybe a length or so, as again Chris Valentine keeps to the outside line, sees the boxers coming through. Hutchins is through, Porter's through, so too is Nick Hull, so very much a 3-way scrap between those guys for 3rd position. I rather fancy the 94 second place battle might be about to hot up, because Chris Valentine was very respectful of these faster cars coming through, and that could help the 2 chasers, Andy Pritchard and John Jones, to close in on him. Chris qualifying 3rd in the 924s, but it's Hutchins still out front in this battle for 3rd place. Nick Hull is closing up on Andrew Porter. Here's the view from Porter, 4th position at the moment. You have to say Hutchins is a little bit further clear than Porter is over Nick Hull. Looks down the inside line through Paddock Hill Bend. This really does fall away, that corner, and then you get to the bottom and you've got to climb all the way up to the top of Druids. As an outside line here from the 33, Andrew Porter going for the outside, and Nick Hull senses here there's a gap and goes through on the inside line on the exit of Druids, but that's the outside of Graham Hill Bend. They're giving each other room, he can't quite do it. And holding on to fourth position is Andrew Porter, but Nick Hull was having a speculative look round the outside there. The key thing is if you get on the inside at Druids, that converts to the outside at Graham Hill Bend, which is a very, very difficult thing to do. They're giving each other racing room. I've got to say that was very clean, respectful racing between the pair, and Anthony Hutchins must be worried that these two have the pace. Remember, Hutchins qualified fourth. Nick Hull was quicker than him in qualifying, and Nick will carry that. The thought that he was the third fastest car in the qualifying session, and he's itching to get back up onto a podium place. Up Hayward's Hill once again, looks on the inside line, sweeps back to the outside, and it's still Porter holding on there. 3 cars for third place. Hull's going to look to the inside now, goes to the outside line as they come down into Graham Hill Bend once again. Very little to choose between the 3 of them. Of course, the dynamic for this man Porter changes when he gets closer to Hutchins, because he won't know whether to defend or attack. Now, we said things were closing up in the 924s. That's Chris Valentine in the 88, now being challenged by Andy Pritchard. Left-hander here at Surtees. Pritchard certainly closed down. John Jones not that far away either. So second and third and fourth in red in the 924 class. And good racing as ever from the 924s. Like the production category, a very good place to enter the championship. 4 classes now. We haven't got any productions this weekend. There's also a new 2.7 race category class. The main class is for the Boxster S3.2, 986, 987. The 986 2.7 litre car will constitute Class B. And then the production class and Class D, the 924s, the classic 924s that started the championship all those years ago. Chris Valentine is being closed down on now by Andy Pritchard. As we said, classes B and C, no entries this weekend, but we look forward to seeing some later in the season. Long Cooper Straight, Valentine still in second position. We are halfway through the race. Only 1 retirement so far. Sadly, have to report that Andy Baker is out of the race after 3 laps. Fastest on circuit is Rick Steyer in the race leader on lap 5 with a 53.835, averaging in excess of 80 miles per hour. As the battle for second position hots up, Chris Valentine will be looking in his mirrors. I'm looking to see if we can see a mirror view on that onboard. We can't, but now outfield shot shows that coming through is Andy Pritchard. He's trying to draw level with him here as they come down into Paddock Hill Bend. Again, clear racing and fair racing between the pair of them. That wasn't just leaving the door open by Chris Valentine, giving his fellow racer racing room. And that was a good move by Andrew Pritchard. And look at Valentine coming back at him now. He knew that he would have the chance to come back. He knows he's got the pace, Chris Valentine, to re-challenge. And now we've got Anthony Hutchins in front of Nick Hull, which means we have a new third place car. Andrew Porter in the 33s, now in third place. And Anthony Hutchins coming under pressure here from Nick Hull. Look down the inside line. Hull's going to try and go through as they go through Paddock Hill Bend. Not the easiest place to pass, but Hull tees him up, goes through into fourth position. Anthony Hutchins on his Porsche debut is in 5th. Having qualified in 4th, he's going to be enjoying the race for sure. So that familiar Mazda livery, if you've seen any of our BRSCC racing for the Max 5s, it's a totally different style, of course, driving the Boxster than the Mazda, but quitting himself very well, as too is Andrew Porter, who is potentially here on for a maiden career podium. Andrew Porter, this is his 31st career start by my reckoning. Nick Hull trying to close him down, so Nick just 1 place shy of his starting position going into Paddock Hill Bend and getting some momentum here. This is looking good. He's closing up down at the bottom of Halewoods, up the hill. Is he going to try for the inside line? I don't think there's room there. He's going to have a look at the outside. It's a wide sweep. It could be about gaining momentum through Graham Hill Bend And more importantly, along Cooper Straight, has a look again. He's getting closer. Now, is he going to go up the inside line here? Nobody's had a track limits either yet, by the way, which is absolutely superb. So many other championships will moan and groan about track limits, but if you don't exceed them, you don't get the penalty. It's as straightforward as that, and that's what we're seeing here, as well as Nick Hull getting closer again to Porter. What a battle we've got on for third place. We've got a titanic battle for second in the 924s, and a great scrap in Class A for third position. Still Rick Styron ahead of Gary Lawrence. Hull looks to the outside line again. They've got Hugh Pett up ahead of them. Hugh, the leader of the 924s. And how is this going to play out? Hugh is going to be mindful that they are there. And I think he's going to leave the outside line, go to the outside line rather, and leave the inside clear. And Andrew Porter goes through. Nick Hull goes through as well. And Nick trying to get the momentum along Cooper Straight. Have a look at the inside at Surtees. Nothing quite doing on this occasion, but he's certainly putting the pressure on, and Porter soaking it up at the moment. But Nick Hull will have another go. Anthony Hutchins not that far away either, has not been lost by those two. Here's the battle for second position in the 924s, and Chris Valentine back into second place. Valentine side by side with Andy Pritchard, goes through on the way into Druids. That was a great manoeuvre by Chris Valentine, cleanly through. Porter down to third, and now being challenged by John Jones. Three cars fighting over second place in the 924s, and still this battle between Andrew Porter and Nick Hull, who goes on the brakes. Now he's going to go through on the inside line. Remember, that's the outside at Graham Hill Bend, but he's got momentum. He's looking through. They're giving each other room here, side by side as they go into Graham Hill Bend, and he's through. Nick Hull. You very rarely see somebody go around the outside line at Graham Hill Bend, but Nick Hull just did that. That was a superb move from both drivers, giving each other room. Andrew Porter and Nick Hull, I take my hat off to you. Super racing between the pair. You don't see that very often. I've not seen that for a long, long time. Great move by Nick Hull. Respectful racing as well by Andrew Porter, who I think knows he can fight back. And now we've got Anthony Hutchins coming back into the mix as well. Well, without a doubt, Nick Hull's going to be the driver who's made the most passes in this race, because he was, remember, he was in sixth place. He was actually down behind Lee Bowden, who's still in the race, by the way, Lee Bowden. That Hull has come up into third place when he was sixth on lap number one. Now, can he consolidate that now? He's not got too long to go. We're 3/4 of the way through this 20-minute race. It's the 20-minute format still. And a little wobble there for Andrew Porter, trying to close down on Nick Hull. That would have scrubbed off a little bit of speed. He's not lost too much time. He's going to be worried about Anthony Hutchins coming through, the newcomer right behind him. I'll tell you what, he's still got his head down, Andrew Porter, so we know he has got the speed, but it's Styron still out front. Gary Lawrence is in second. Nick Hull now third here. The blue car leading this trio, looking a lot more settled than it did earlier on in the race. What a fine race we've had between these three cars. Porter has not given up by any stretch of the imagination. Uphill once again, under the Burton Bridge into Druids, and trying to close down, mindful of the fact that Anthony Hutchins is there as well, ready to grab a fifth place on his PDA debut. Gary Lawrence, the top-seeded driver, coming back into the championship this year. Adam Southgate and James Coleman not with us this weekend. Gavin Johnson was the 1994 champion last year from Hugh Pett. David Jones third, Chris Valentine fourth in the 924s last year. Tell you what, Nick Hull still under pressure again, and a wide moment by Andrew Porter. The couple of little errors, he's just trying so hard to keep on terms with Nick Hull, who is the most experienced Porsche racer in the field. Nick Hull had well over 100 career starts, I think over 160 at the last count. But look at this, the battle for second position in the 924s. Chris Valentine is still there. Andrew Pritchard putting pressure on him. John Jones is in the mix as well. They've got Boxsters about to bear down on them, and it's the third place Boxster of Nick Hull who's putting the pressure on. Is he going to be able to get past them along Cooper Straight? He passes John Jones in 6.39. Andrew Pritchard is next. Andrew leaves the door open. Fair driving from him once again. Nick Hull now only has to deal with Chris Valentine, who again leaves room, super driving from the 924s. Round the outside goes Andrew Porter. Porter's going to do the outside here. Passes Pritchard, outside line on Chris Valentine. Does tighten up that little bit of track. Chris gave him room again, which was entirely fair. But through on the inside line and back into second place in class goes Andrew Pritchard. So a swap again in the 924s for second position. Andy Pritchard up into second, and Chris Valentine's got the work to do, but he's got around the outside Anthony Hutchins in the Boxster running in fifth position in the Boxsters, looking to try and go through. Makes it past, does Hutchins, past both of the 924s, and Chris Valentine's going to follow through on the inside line and reclaim second position again. Wonderful racing from the 924s. You can pick up a car for, obviously no motor racing is cheap, but it's relatively inexpensive to come and race these cars. To race a Porsche is many a driver's dream, and you can do it with the Porsche Racing Driving Association Championship. Look at this, look how close they are, second, third and fourth all together. Meanwhile, Rick Styron in the 99 car, it was sunny and hot today, so they said let's have a 99. There it is, Rick Styron is going to add another win. The triple champion on his final lap here of the opening round of the 2019 campaign is going to take another win. I think a 61st career win if my statistics are correct. He's coming down towards the checkered flag now. Styron wins the opening event of the 2019 season. Styron wins. Gary Lawrence coming through now for second place. Lawrence just 5 seconds behind, so it's P2 for Gary Lawrence. Nick Hull takes third. There is Hupert, who wins the 924s. Here's the official result. Styron from Lawrence and Hull. Andrew Porter fourth. Anthony Hutchins next from Lee Bowden. Hupert takes the 924 class ahead of Chris Valentine. Andy Pritchard next from John Jones. Fastest laps, Rick Styron and Hupert. Great way to get our season underway.
Rick, you've come back and you're straight away on podium.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this weekend. Lee's worked very, very hard, and my mechanic has been amazing. Gary's given me his second car to use for the weekend. It's a beautiful day at Brands Hatch racing Porsches. It's just great.
So Gary, you've got to be happy with second.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be fair, I thought that was probably where I'd be. I was a little bit disappointed with the gap, but Rick's such a steady driver. He doesn't make mistakes, and I made sort of 2 or 3 on the trot, trying a little bit too hard. So in the end, just settled, and it's just good to get that first race out of the way in the first meet and make sure the car's all good. And so hopefully next time we'll get a bit closer to him.
We did hear, have you lent him your second car?
Yeah, thanks for rubbing that in.
I made it hard for myself. Got a bad start. Selected third instead of second. Third instead of second. So made it hard for myself. But great race. Car went really well, especially after all the turmoil that we had last year with the rebuild and so forth. So thank you to Rich Avery for getting the car sorted, and then a big thank you to Nick Booth, my mechanic, for making it immaculate as always and getting it on the pace. So yeah, hopefully next one we'll start a bit better and get up with those two boys.
Race 2 is about to get underway here at Brands Hatch, and it's the final one of the weekend. The guys are just about to line up on the grid, so we're going to jump straight into the action and hand it straight over to Richard.
The grid based on the results of race 1, which means Rick Styron on pole, Gary Lawrence next up from Nick Hull and Andrew Porter, Anthony Hutchins and Lee Bowden next from Andy Baker and James Coleman. Then it is Hupert, the winner of the 924s, ahead of Chris Valentine, Andy Pritchard and John Jones completing the grid. Lights are on. Out they go. Nick Hull makes a much better start. Styron side by side with Lawrence. It's very, very crowded. That was a very good equal start from the front runners. Chris Valentine second in the 924s. Hupert there as well, but look, here comes Andy Pritchard trying to stick his nose up the inside line, but it's Rick Styron that gets away. Nick Hull is challenging for second in blue. Gary Lawrence going wide in the green car side by side for second place. Our view from the 4th place car, Andrew Porter. But Gary Lawrence in the 3 car is going to hang on to second place. Nick Hull's going to maybe have a look down the inside line. The sun, of course, lower in the sky. towards the end of our race day. Nick Hull in third. This is what Nick wanted, a decent start and the chance to challenge for P2, which he does on the inside line, slingshots through at clearways. Great move by Nick Hull. We've seen two really good overtakes today from Hull. That one round the outside at Graham Hill Bend, and that was a super move on Gary Lawrence to take second place, and he wants to try and get up with Rick Styron before Rick does what he did in race number one and pulled away. It was only 5 seconds at the end of 20 minutes. So it's Styron, Hull, Lawrence, then Andrew Porter, followed by Anthony Hutchins. Lee Bowden is next. We lost Andy Baker after the retirement in race one, sadly. And it's Hugh Peart who leads the 924 category again. Hugh hoping to wrap up with a double this weekend. And I think we're going to get another good battle with the 924s for podium positions once again, with the likes of Andrew Pritchard, Chris Valentine, who was second in race one, and John Jones. Remember, we're back here at Brands Hatch on the 27th and 28th of July, and we're hoping for good weather once again. After this meeting, we go to Snetterton on the 300 circuit, the first of our triple headers for this year, 20th and 21st of April. Gary Lawrence in third place. You can see we've had some fluid down on the track, which the marshals have cleared up, so shouldn't present any problems. We then go to Cadwell Park after Snetterton on the 11th and 12th of May. Croft in June, back here as I mentioned at Brands Hatch in July. Anglesey on the 17th and 18th of August. The international circuit at Silverstone on the 5th and 6th of October. And the triple header at Donington Park, the 19th and 20th of October, will wrap up this year's championship. But lots of great racing to come between now and then, including our second race of the season. So Nick Hull, who was sixth, remember, on the opening lap of race one going up towards Druids, has worked hard, and his endeavours currently earning him second position in this race. Early stages of this one looking a little bit more settled than we had in race number one, but as we said, 20-minute format. Concept conceived by the British Racing and Sports Car Club several years ago when they introduced their racing ahead concept, and it guarantees track time for all the cars. It helps the BRSCC put together their race schedules. Hutchins and Bowden, not that much between Hutchins, the ex-Mazda driver in the red, white and blue. We're actually focusing on Andrew Porter here. Goes along Cooper Straight. You see, it's difficult here. It's great weather, but when the sun's low in the sky, it is very tricky going along Cooper Straight up into the left-hander at Surtees. There is Lee Bowden, production champion last year. Made the move into the Class A cars at the end of last season and achieved a best of fourth position in the first of our three races at Donington Park last year. Gary Lawrence getting closer to the 44, Nick Hull. So are we going to see a battle between these two? We know Lawrence outpaced Nick Hull in qualifying, so again he will have that confidence that he can be quick. That car incidentally was on show, the green car was on show at the Autosport International. You may well have seen it. Absolutely immaculate car, as indeed they all are on this grid. Gary Lawrence piling the pressure on Nick Hull now. These two long-term rivals. This is the 100th race for Gary Lawrence, who has now had 32 career podia. That is a very impressive. You think about that, that's pretty much a third of all of Gary Lawrence's races have resulted in podium finishes. And when you consider the driving force that we've had over the years in this championship, that is a very, very impressive statistic indeed. So up in towards Druids they go again. Nick Hull keeping that nice tight inside line. Lawrence goes wide, trying to get momentum to maybe have a look down at Graham Hill Bend, and again just on that run down. Hull not overly defensive, he's taking the line that he wants. And again, I point out track limits here, absolutely exemplary. On the paperwork that we've got so far, nobody has picked up a penalty for track limits, and I challenge you to find another championship where that is the case. These guys absolutely know the rules, they're respecting the limits. As well as anything else, of course, they know they get caught because the little curbs here have cameras in them. Let's take a picture of the cars should they exceed it, as Gary Lawrence now looks down the inside line of Nick Hull as they go into Paddock Hill Bend. But Hull has got very good momentum and hangs on to second position. But Lawrence really gave notice of intent there to try and go through. He really is harrying. This is big, big pressure. So what you're seeing here, you may not see a pass, but you'll see the car behind put a lot of pressure on. You'll see the car in front being driven impeccably to soak up that pressure as well. And that's what racing's about. Lawrence has a little look down on the inside line as they go in towards Surtees. Nothing doing there. Gets closer towards the rear spoiler of the blue 44. Very close there. This, of course, is where Hull went through earlier on in the race. Read that scenario very well indeed. Here they come again to cross the line a quarter of the way through our 20-minute race here. And again he goes through on the inside line. This time Lawrence manages to do it. A very well-timed manoeuvre by Gary Lawrence. Goes through, passes Nick Hull, who's going to have a look on the inside line to repay the compliment as they go into Druids. Lawrence was certainly, I think, deeper into Druids than he would have liked to have been. And Hull is down into third place. Now one wonders whether Nick's tyres took a little bit more of a pounding in race one, because remember, he was probably the driver that did the most overtakes in that race. And Gary Lawrence is now starting to build a little bit of a gap over Nick Hull in third. So Nick is there, not that far behind either is Andrew Porter. We'll be looking for another fourth position. Andrew Porter, incidentally, opened last year at Alton Park with a fourth place, so maybe a little sense of deja vu for the man from Knaresborough. Chris Valentine is passed by the race leader Rick Styrin. There is Porter, followed by Anthony Hutchins. And of course the Class A cars, the Boxster S machines, will get stuck in to the 924s. Past John Jones goes Andrew Porter. Gary Lawrence makes a move through in second position as well. Hugh Pett still leading the 924, so on for a double here, last year's championship runner-up in the 924s. And speak of him, there he is, Hugh Pett with a good lead at the moment in the 36 car, runner-up as we said last year in the 924s. And again, the 924s over these, even with the current years with the Boxsters, we have some great champions over the years. One of the few championships to have a lady championship winner, Linda Warren winning it in 2016, Adam Croft won it the year before that, Simon Hawksley, Alistair Kirkham double champion 2013-2012, Pip Hammond won it after Linda Warren, and Gavin Johnson last year's champion. But Hugh Pett is really marking out territory here with potentially a second win on the cards for him. Very experienced driver in the championship, Hugh. 126 career starts to date and has been with the championship since 2008 by my reckoning. Here is Chris Valentine, the man who looks after the media for the Porsche Racing Drivers Association. Super view here, look at the conditions, absolutely ideal weather conditions here at Brands Hatch so early on in the year. Very grateful for that, we are too. And Chris driving well at the moment, and perhaps about to gain another podium. Anthony Hutchins goes through on the inside line with Andy Pritchard trying to close in. Those two may well engage in battle again. It was absolutely enthralling between those two in race one. And at the moment, Valentine has definitely got the upper hand, but we'll see whether Andy Pritchard can close down in the number 11 car as the race develops. Now about the halfway stage of this 20-minute race. You can't predict how many laps you're going to have in any of these races, because it might be safety cars and the like. As looking around the outside is Lee Bowden. Lee trying to go past what is now a battle for second position in the 924s, because Andy Pritchard has caught Chris Valentine now, and that race spec Boxster is going to look around the outside line here as they go into Paddock Hill Bend and pop a lap on Andy Pritchard's car. Not the easiest of things to do, go around the outside line at Paddock Hill Bend, but Lee Bowden does it. He's got Chris Valentine to deal with now as well, and he's going to try the outside line here. Sun in your eyes as well. So looks at the outside line at Druids, and now we'll go to the inside at Graham Hill Bend. Chris Valentine leaves room for him. I'm thinking in terms of maybe the two 924s both lost a little bit of time, but probably equal amounts of time lost by the pair of them. 5 or 6 car lengths between the two of them at the moment. Chris Valentine still in second place, with Pritchard starting to close in. He's really halved that. He's halved the gap now. He's closing in as he did in race number 1. Meanwhile, Nick Hull coming under pressure from Andrew Porter. So Hull has lost a little bit of ground on Gary Lawrence in second place. You can see, I think that was Gary Lawrence in the distance. And Nick Hull still in third. Andrew Porter trying to close down on him. Of course, catching is one thing, overtaking is another. But these two had a really enthralling battle in race number 1, and it looks like that may reignite here in the closing stages of race 2. So the battle for third place, it was Gary Lawrence in the distance. The onboard camera accentuating the gap somewhat, but Lawrence not that far ahead of Nick Hull at the minute as they come across the line once again. So Hull, I don't think will be too disappointed with 2 podia this weekend. So nabs the apex at Paddock, up the hill once again. Very definitely under pressure here from Andrew Porter, who's going to have a look up the inside line, but Nick Hull has got that covered. He realises that the 33 car is there, takes a good line out of Druids, down in towards Graham Hill Bend, accelerates away. Good line here from Nick Hull, who's really focused on keeping that car in front, and I've got to say, not overly defensive Nick Hull. He was on the way in, but once he came out of Druids, this seems to be the point of the track where Andrew Porter maybe is a little bit quicker, which is ironic because this is where we saw the 44 car Nick Hull go through and take second position earlier on in the race. So Hull's still there, Porter in behind, and nobody else to trouble these guys at the moment, so it's going to be a straight, clean, fair race between the pair of them all the way to the flag as they go into Paddock Hill Bend once again. This, I remind you, the battle for third place. Rick Styron still out front, has fastest lap in this one once again, 54.431. The pace a tad slower than it was in race number 1. It's a little bit cooler out there. The best has probably gone out of the tyres, but not that far away from what he did in race number 1. Same too with Hugh Peart, who's done a 58.682 as a best lap, which compares very favourably indeed with Dallas Jackson's time the first time we raced here on the Indy circuit. It's quicker, as you would expect, with developments gone into the cars over those years, and Hugh looking to take another win and fastest lap here. And there is Hugh. Flash of the lights from Nick Hull just to let him know. We'll see the blue flags as well, and Nick Hull goes through on the inside line. Andrew Porter through as well. The battle for third place will continue up the hill. Gary Lawrence again on for another podium here. Gary Lawrence in his 100th start, on for another second position, 33rd podium. Gary has had 3 fastest laps in his career with us as well, and made the championship win not too far away as we watch the battle for third place continuing now. And offline, looking at the inside line there, was Andrew Porter, and a change for second position in the 924s again. Chris Valentine is passed by Andy Pritchard. Let's see if Chris can get back on the case. Pritchard back to the inside line. This is wonderful stuff from the 924s. Valentine looks around the outside, can't quite do it to get the position back as they come out of Druids. Thinks about looking down the inside, back to the outside racing line for as much speed as he can carry through Graham Hill Bend here and along Cooper Straight. But this is very close competitive stuff in the 924s. Chris Valentine the chaser, Andy Pritchard up into second. Remember, Valentine was second in race number 1. Pritchard will just now maybe look to try and put a bit of space between himself and Chris Valentine. Valentine on his best lap, the quicker of the 2 drivers, so we'll see whether he can respond. They go across the line now, and it looks like Pritchard building a little bit of a gap. Chris Valentine still chasing though, so we're on board with the third place man in the 924s at the moment. So honours points wise going to be even between those if it stays like this, but it's not, because Valentine has a very good look coming into Druids, and we know that he can overtake. We know that both of these guys are capable of some good safe overtaking. Meanwhile, back with Andy Porter, who's having a look here and goes up the inside line of Nick Hull, side by side into Druids, and he's gone through. Andrew Porter into third. Nick Hull is now in fourth place, but won't give up without a fight on the outside line of Druids, and that grabs the inside this time for Graham Hill-Ben. That was a superb piece of racing there by the pair of them again. Excellent stuff. So Nick Hull has proved that he's the absolute master of Graham Hill-Ben. A pass on the inside, a pass on the outside this weekend. And he knew that if he got the run on the outside line at Druids, that would give him the momentum he needed to repass the 33 car. But the battle is far from over between this pair. Absolutely stunning stuff. So Hull is back into third. Andrew Porter, who'd obviously been trying to work out where there might be a little weak spot maybe in Nick Hull's driving. He's coming back again. Gary Lawrence not getting away either. So again, Nick Hull inside line as they go to Druids. Andrew Porter still piling the pressure on, but this is significant for Nick Hull. Oh, and Porter slowing. Now, has he missed a gear? He's still going, but oh, that's a shame. That's extinguished the battle for third place without a doubt. But what a battle it was while it was going on. Thrilling the crowd here for sure. So Nick Hull, barring any problems, looks like he's on his way to third behind Gary Lawrence and Rick Styron, who I think is going to make it a double here at Brands Hatch this weekend. He's got John Jones immediately in front of him. John in the red 924 running fourth in class. Here comes Nick across the line once again. But Rick Styron, we've seen very little of him because he's been out front on his own. We've been focusing rightly on the battles, but Rick Styron here looking for career win 62, an 84th career podium. He will now have had 54 fastest laps if he holds on to that as well. Fastest lap being set back on lap 11. And he'll be very happy to be back in the championship. Remember, he was champion originally in 2012, 2013 and 2016. I hope that he'll do a whole season with us and that we'll see some great battles for him. But he comes out of Clark Curve onto the Brabham straight to see the checkered flag and make it a double. There is the win. Rick Styron takes the win. Similar distance ahead of Gary Lawrence at the end of the day. Hugh Pert there in the 924 finishes seventh overall. Another class win for him, but the result, Styron from Gary Lawrence, Nick Hull third, Andrew Porter fourth from Anthony Hutchins and Lee Bowden. Hugh Pert wins the 924s ahead of Andy Pritchard, who stayed ahead of Chris Valentine this time. John Jones fourth in the 924s. Fastest laps, Rick Styron and Hugh Pert.
2 wins out of 2. You must be pretty happy.
Excellent weekend. 2 poles, 2 fastest laps and 2 wins, I think. Yeah, so good weekend. Good weekend, yeah.
That last race, talk us through it.
The main bit was I got bogged down at the start because you're starting downhill, so we don't have a handbrake, so I just messed it up basically, so the others swamped me a bit at Paddock Hill, but then I got away and drove away.
Absolutely chuffed to bits with it. Chris made me work really hard for it though. It was a constant battle right the way through. I didn't think I was going to rein him in, but eventually we got there and he made a couple of cheeky moves on the last lap which I managed to fend off, so yeah, here we are.
It was a tough race, yeah. I got a better start than you, and I thought, well, this is good because I'll stay on his tail a little bit longer. And I was pulling ahead of Andy, and then all of a sudden I saw him in my mirror. I thought, oh no, that means I really do need to put my foot down. And he stuck with me, got past me, and would you believe it, the git beat me. So massive credit to him. He's done really well this weekend, as has my teammate. That's been his first race weekend. He's finished both races, 2 signatures on his licence. So well done, John.
They do say the sun shines on the righteous, and that's certainly been the case this weekend for the opening round of the 2019 Porsche Racing Drivers Association Championship with Toyo Tires. Some great racing from the Boxsters. Nick Hull coming through from 6 on lap number 1, dicing hard throughout the meeting with Andrew Porter. And of course the 924s, wonderful racing between Chris Valentine and Andrew Pritchard, who had a second position apiece by the end of the day. Double winners though, Rick Styron with 2 wins, 2 second places for Gary Lawrence and a double in the 924s for Hugh Pett. Please join us next time when we're at Snetterton.